for the people that are having energy cuts. We're going to start discussing this week topics about qualitative research and how this specific paradigm looks like for us in terms of research work and what it means. So I want to ask you, who here has never done anything qualitative ever in their career, or never has done like an interview, a focus group, anything? I'm just gonna plug my laptop briefly. I'm just gonna put the camera on hold really briefly, but I'm gonna hear you. Please open your mic to talk. Anybody has never done anything qualitative ever? Or all of you have done some kind of qualitative work? All of you have done qualitative? Good.
Yes.
Good. Even the engineers? Do we have any engineers? Oh, good.
So I made some like qualitative research, maybe in the first semesters, but not much more than that.
That's great. That's fantastic. Awesome. Because actually, that's one of the issues. Like, people in STEM actually sometimes never have done anything qualitative. And that's great news. So people in STEM, what kind of qualitative approaches have you done before? Santiago.
I made some focus groups in the first semesters.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't remember exactly what was the point of, or maybe the investigation, because I think it was some just like homework or a project. But I made focus groups to maybe somehow analyze the data of the focus groups.
Okay, great. So you did focus groups. And for what purpose? What you were researching about?
I think it was like the opinion of the STEM, or in this case, the computer science students about um I don't remember if it was for like the computer science in general, like the major,
Mm-hmm.
or just only that semester, but it was like how uh, the students view the major, I think, like in how will it describe if it was good for them or if they feel like somehow good.
Mm-hmm. How they see their degree, like what they're learning, all of that, right?
And yeah, somehow also the expectations that they have like during the major.
Okay, great. That's actually meaningful work. So qualitative in this exercise is very meaningful because it allows you to see perceptions. It allows you to see how people sees from their own perspective a phenomenon, how they lived an experience, how they perceive a particular phenomenon that has happened to them, or have been seen from a third-party situation happening in the world, and allow you to understand through theoretical lenses specific issues from multiple perspectives. So from the readings, which specific perspectives in the theories were more salient for you about qualitative research? That were more novel, that you didn't knew from undergrad, that the author Creswell is talking about? the readings of this week?
I think that in my case, I am like starting in the qualitative investigation, and in psychology, you have like a whole subject about it, but I just learned how to use Atlas T and not a deep understanding of the application. It's more like just to understand that there's some options to interpret the information. But more than that, I don't think so.
Okay, we're talking today about the book. So about the readings that we're having for this week from page 1 to 16, what particular lenses that you had to read about were more interesting to you? So that we're talking about philosophical assumptions, interpretive frameworks. Which one of these were interesting for you? What paradigms? What came into your mind? Yes, Salvador.
I was surprised to find the paradigmic assumption of post-positivism. I read that implies that the assumption of the scientific community that observable things are not the only way to get knowledge. So that way you can introduce to the scientific field the things like the phenomenological perspective of people, because positivism, it was cool to see that the scientific community sees positivism as no longer the only framework that you can use to get to knowledge.
Right. So actually, post-positivism encourages to move forward that view of everything is a phenomenon, right? So everything is like an issue, everything is like a situation, like it happens in a vacuum, right? And it's not. Like if you think about anything that happens, it's connected to something else. And probably for us Latin Americans, because we come ingrained, our mindset becomes ingrained in a different way in our culture, we came built with another knowledge. Like probably if you took history in high school and in undergrad, you might acknowledge that, of course, like we come from Inca, Cañari, we are like, Latin American, and our background is completely different. So from American and hegemonic frameworks, this like everything has a reason and it's connected, like this is a thing and it's compartmentalized in like a box, right? So hegemonic views tend to say like this is an issue, that's that, and they close it in a box, but they don't see it how it's connected to something else. But for us Latinos and the global South, as it's called, everything is connected. And why we are learning that the colonial epistemology is this new stream of knowledge that's so hyped right now in qualitative research and in PhD levels and in research right now in everything. Like if you look into climate change research, right, or STEM field, or like mental health, it's like the consequences of depression on mental health in young people. And you see it's connected up to, I don't know, youth and the use of hard drugs in the parents 20 years ago, right? Like an economical problems. So for us Latinos, it's very easy to understand, oh, like abuelita, right? Like they came like that comes in the blood, like the family was having issues, right? Like we say like, oh, don't be judgeful, but actually like ancestral knowledge, it has something. It's not prejudice, it's connected. If you see things in a vacuum, they don't happen in a vacuum. They happen because its consequence is a chain reaction of something else, right? So I agree with you, Salvador. What other thing about qualitative research is really interesting for you from the readings that you think it's or something you didn't understand and you want some clarity? Please feel free to ask from the readings.
I found interesting the ethnography. Yeah, I think that's a pretty easy and reliable study, especially for Ecuador and our countries which need more of that. And something I didn't catch up was grounded theory. So yeah, I never heard of it.
Great, thank you, Alejo. So first things first, ethnography, it's a wonderful qualitative method. However, ethnography has to be taken in combination with other methods that can be also qualitative or in mixed methods with quant, because ethnography can allow you to explore in-depth experiences of a person and a human group or anything else, right? Like, so for example, let's say somebody wants to like improve buildings and the experience of people that has disabilities, right? So you are an architect and you say like, I want to make this building more accessible, but you don't have a disability. So you will never know, right? Like you will go and see 1,000 papers of how ramps should be like, how high the standards for stairs should be like, how tall the buttons of like the elevator should be like, if they should have braille signage, like all of the standards for buildings and so on and so on. However, how that applicable is that to our Latin American reality? You don't know, right? Because that's European, Americanized way. We Latinos are very tiny people. Like we have other measures, our bodies are different, like our disabilities are different. So we need our own adaptations of those frameworks, right? So for example, a very good ethnography could be, I'm gonna take all these measures, all these theories, and I'm gonna apply them into ethnography as a theoretical framework, and I'm gonna make a theoretical study with people that actually have the disability, and I'm gonna, like protect them with IRB, and this week you guys are gonna cover up that module, give them all the training and somebody that's gonna assist them because they have to be safe in order to cover up all those materials. And while they do that, I'm gonna discover the exact same measure where the button should be for people with disability in Ecuador and Latin American standards. Is the same? We don't know. Could be, could not be. Or how that building should be for people that's Latin American and has a disability, right? So you have to adapt. It could be that. But also ethnography could be very ingrained in social sciences, such as you want to document the experience of a student in a university that's public and how traumatizing can be, I don't know, be a first-year student on a public university when you are a foráneo, right? Like when you are from rural Ecuador and you have to move to Cuenca and you have no idea and you have no friends and you have to move to live under a budget and like document all that experience and try to make life better for people that have that disparity, right? That's also very valid. That could be a wonderful ethnography. And the wonderful thing about ethnography is also can be online. Ethnography also has other genders called photo boys. So people actually use their phone cameras or GoPro cameras and record like you will see how they see the world. Like the GoPro camera, that was very popular a couple years ago, that people was like bungee jumping and you will see that like what they saw in the particular moment those things happen. So ethnography is wonderful because you can code all those emotions and all those things and get all that data for that. Yes, Salvador.
Do you know if we as researchers can do like a case study on ourselves, or just the researcher and the subject of investigation has to be different, a different?
You can do, there's autoethnographies that you can do. There's a gender called autoethnography that is on the book. However, there's a gender you can like go and study about it and do some research about autoethnography. It's valid for documenting experiences. However, the recommendable thing is that you do it about an experience that you have lived yourself. It's not something you expose yourself on force for research. So let's say you will have to document your experience as a young psychologist, right? Like you cannot force yourself to be, I don't know, an archaeologist or something like that, because that's outside of your experience. Do you know what I mean? So it could be that, it has to be something that actually speaks to your identity as a human being, as a male, as a Latino. Like I cannot document like what it means to be a white woman, because I'm not a white woman. I'm a pale woman. I'm a pale Latino woman, but I'm not white. Like, you know what I mean? So it is what it is. So going into the second question of Alejandro about, what was the second question? I just forgot, Alejo. I'm sorry, COVID is still killing me.
Grounded theory. Grounded theory.
Grounded theory is a gender that is for creating theories that does not exist. So when you run into things that do not exist, you start doing experiments and collecting data to create knowledge about things that there are no theories to back up anything about that. So you can do interviews, you can do experiments, you can do, but it has to be in social sciences. It cannot be on, it cannot be experimental on, I don't know, engineering. They have another specific methods for their field. So in qualitative research is something really specific of social sciences. So you can be, I don't know, there's not like a model for social media in science communication, for example. There's not. Barely yesterday, I was presenting my research in a colloquium, and somebody was asking me, is there a model of how scientists can use social media for engaging with the public? I was like, actually, there's not. And like, researchers don't like using social media. They're scared of social media. All that it exists is borrowed from public relations or like dialogic communication models from Stratcom, but it actually doesn't work 100% great. But you can try. I mean, and that would be a really nice grounded theory project, right? Like you can grab like 100, make a bunch of experiments and make posts on Instagram, X, and TikTok and see what performs best. Measure like misinterpretation accuracy, hashtags. If there's engagement, there's no engagement, and things like that. If they get in trouble or something, like it could be like a lot of things, but grounded theory studies are hard to do. They need at least a year or two of measuring performance of the data that you're going to collect in order to report that data. So it doesn't have to be short. At least you have to give it a time to like set the framework, implement it, measure it, and then report. So you always need to stage it out a little bit. Okay, great. So moving forward to the topics of today, I wanted to go into these paradigms with you, and also building upon a little bit of your how you will use specific methods for qualitative research. I haven't finished yet of grading and researching a little bit more about your interest, but also you have to think about how your materials would look like into qualitative surveys. So I know it sounds a little bit controversial, qualitative survey. So actually there is qualitative survey. So what it means, a qualitative survey? It could be something that allows you to explore in a specific terms more exploratory data about activities that can people just do for as a first scan mapping data for a draft of mapping what's happening in your topic of interest, right? So let's see, you want to explore, let's say, mental health or something like that. That's your first ever approach. You haven't really touched base on anything. Or you did a study a couple years ago and you don't know right now what's actually happening, right? So when you have left the arena for a while and you want to go back, the wise thing to do is do kind of like a qualitative survey. So you can run like an easy sample and just go through it and see what it comes out. So a qualitative survey is merely exploratory. And what it helps you to do is mostly explore the arena. So I highly recommend you before jumping into, I'm gonna do like ethnography or grounded theory, or I'm gonna do focus groups, or I'm gonna do participatory research. That's another gender. Besides qualitative, quantitative, participatory is a different animal. I highly recommend you doing a qualitative survey. So did you guys check that material for today, that little video, or not yet? So questions about qualitative surveys or ideas? Angie.
Yes, Denise, I was having a lot of questions regarding the surveys because in my career, we used to use a lot of surveys. And it was a little a surprise for me, like hearing that sometimes when you close to match the question, you are closing the approach of the question. And I was wondering, how can I conduct a good question that can let me to understand the tendency of the person to be more likely to my theme of study, for example, without being like, without conducting an answer. I don't know if I made myself understand.
Yeah, I understood what you're doing. Do you remind me your field, your discipline?
History.
History, okay, great. So Angie, in your particular case, what's your topic of interest in history?
For example, I will talk about what I did in my thesis. I work with high school students, and I wanted to know if working with historical graphic novels will help them to understand history better. So first of all, I led some open questions to them regarding a historical topic, but I wanted to know if they were able to identify some historical terms and historical knowing, like for a ground basis. And then I applied another instrument to see if there were changes based on the use of graphic novel.
Okay, great. So the next step, what you would like to do besides that?
Well, I already did, like I already applied it, but I was wondering if there's a way to know better if the students can get a better knowledge of the historical event that we learned, but without asking them complicated questions like with a ground basis, if they know what the historical event was about without using complicated terms, like to see if they can explain the historical event in their own words and in their own experiences. Yeah.
Right. That's a wonderful, fantastic study. And you can ask that question in 1,000 different ways. That's more engaging for them to participate. I understand it. And I think your study is way more advanced than doing an exploratory session. So I'm just gonna frame your question in two ways. as you already have done this as a thesis, for the sake of this class, I'm gonna respond as an example for the class, and then I'm gonna respond as something that can be actually useful for the next stage of your study, if that's okay. So for example, for the example of the class, if let's say, Angie, you graduated, you're teaching, I don't know, in the job or in the school of your dreams, and you run this study, and then you, oh my God, I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna do a master's or a PhD in history, and I'm gonna go back to my research and I'm gonna do a book of comics about this story and see how engaging is again, right? So as time has passed by, kids change, right? Like next generation is gonna be like alpha. And I'm gonna bash a little bit here. These Gen Zs are gonna kill me, guys. Like, I don't know, my students are each time are more heartless. I don't know what I'm gonna do with kids anymore. Like sometimes I come home and I wanna cry, but I mean, I don't know. It's like alphas and generations change, right? Like they have different mindsets. So how you approach them has to be completely different. So you have to do generational, intergenerational studies, because probably when you did your study, you were talking to late millennials or zillennials or something like that. And then there come the alphas. So the alphas have another framework to learn. So you have to probably adjust a little bit the instruments to conduct the research. So I will run a qualitative study to see how first those new students of new generations might be engaged into learning history. Would they like to learn history in video? Would they like to learn history through animations? Would they like to learn history in theater? I don't know. You might know better about teaching methods in that particular scenario. For your study in the stage that it is, I might specifically look into the same sample and ask them an open question, but ask them like through like a video, photo video format to respond to the question. So like after looking all of that, make me a 1 minute video of yourself telling me the story, and I will code back that video. Because that video will give you more modes to code. You will see the face, which is an emotion that also gives you information. So it's different if I tell you, Simón Bolívar, el Libertador, se casó con Manuela Sáenz. Right. Instead of Simón Bolívar, Libertador, and you see there's emotions there, and you see like some probably stickers, and they put like more effort, like, you know, and that shows engagement, and they liked it because they shows effort. Do you know what I mean? So in terms of learning outcomes, you can see actually they like it, they remember, and it's a different paradigm for learning. Probably, I don't know if my answer is useful. So I will frame that question in a more open way, but also I format how they respond to me so I can code that data more richly.
I get it. Thank you.
And there's a really cool tool called flip.com. Or maybe I will just do something called like a TikTok, open a TikTok account and invite them to do a TikTok with you. And paste the TikToks like that. And you download those TikToks and you have data to code like 4 papers. And you will be the coolest historian. And you have like a science communication piece there. There you go. Vanessa.
Hi, Denise. I had 2 questions. The
Sure.
first one is related to the topic that that you're asking, qualitative survey. And in the video, the YouTuber said that there were two different ways in which we can analyze, or in which we can like formulate questions. One way was like individual questions that are not related to each other, and the other was like this questions that are related with each other and give us the opportunity to analyze all the information in like taking all the question as if they were just one question in a certain way. And my question is, what do you recommend us in this case? What is the best if it is to use just like this format of individual questions, or is it better for you or for us to do this format of related questions, as we are beginners in this file? What is better? What is easier maybe at the beginning, at least at the beginning? And yeah, your opinion about it.
I think right now we are in the point that we're exploratory surveys, like qualitative survey actually determines a contradiction itself, because there's not qualitative survey, it's qualitative interviews, right? But a qualitative survey itself is only for exploratory terms, right? So a qualitative survey, tattoo that in your mind, is only for exploring the ground. It's only when you're browsing, shopping around, what the hell I'm gonna do here? Like, I have no idea. Like, I like psychology in mental health for children, but I don't know what I'm gonna do. So you wanna see what are issues for people. So it's when you're shopping around for an idea and you wanna see what's engaging, what is a problem, what is not a problem, what specifics are people experiencing. So it has to be combined with two things at the same time. A literature review, so you have to go to Google Scholar and read a lot to see what's the novel thing in research, in papers, and figure out where's gaps in literature where you are interested to going in, right? And actually is interesting for and relevant for the people. And here I want to argue something really honest. In these days, people research whatever. Sadly, I have to say, research whatever. Yes. Like Spider-Man and the multimodality of whatever, and that's published in an Scopus Q1, whatever. Who the hell cares about the Spider-Man multimodality quantitative shit? Nobody cares about that shit. I care about how children can model their mindset about what it means to be a man watching TV. That's a different thing, because it's masculinity and personality and other things, right? That's meaningful. I'm not saying don't do media studies. No, I'm not saying that. But what you think, one thing that's very useful that you think you want to do is think if something's meaningful for you, and take this as an advice of a person that has seen a lot of idiotic studies, is read research that you care about, like something, because you're going to spend lots of time with that. If you want to be a researcher, you're going to be sitting down hours reading things that you have to care about, right? So look into things you want. So for example, Vane, what things are you interested in going on exploring?
Maybe about autism.
I'm sorry, what?
Autism.
Autism. Okay. Okay, great. So in the specific, there's a specific spectrums. You might figure out which one is the one that you like the most, or which is the one that you're interested the most. Then you have to figure out in that specific realm what is relevant to you, right? So think about also studies that have not been done that you care about, and are relevant in the field, because there's another danger. When you see research, you're gonna see a lot of papers are like, oh, it has been done. But if it has been done, your chances of getting published or getting admitted into a program are slimmer because it has been done already. So you have to think about the gap. So the gap is that specific tiny place where something is new, right? That there's something has not been done. So let's say, Vane, I'm gonna invent, sorry, my ignorance in autism. I'm only a communication person here. So it could be, there's not a specific method for teaching math to autism functional kids in school. I'm inventing, right? But I want to focus on that, or personality, or adaptation tools, or anything like that. So when you figure that out, you go into that field, and it's like diving out. When you throw yourself in a pool and you decide to throw yourself, then's when you throw yourself there, right? So there's two things you have to decide. That exploratory process that you guys just saw allows you to shop around and collect those surveys around the topic that you're thinking about. Is this worthy? Is this not worthy? The data that you're going to obtain is going to tell you how open people is to tell you things, how not open people is it relevant? Is it not relevant enough? And it's just for exploration. So if you don't really obtain anything, it's okay too. But if there's something meaningful in there, it's even publishable too. So a quantitative survey, it only allows you to explore. And then when you think, oh, actually here is something. So that's when you decide. A really good sign of health in research is when you find a ton of holes in a topic. There you go.
I don't know if I understood it well. Like qualitative survey, it's just like the first step in which we investigate something. And about, you said like qualitative interview, so it's like the same, both are the same.
The qualitative interview is later on. We still haven't seen that yet. The qualitative interview, it's a data collection tool that's all ready for collecting data into a study. So it's when you meet one-on-one already with a person to interview them about a specific topic. But the qualitative survey can be applied to 1,000 people, 10,000 people. It could be sent to anybody and start collecting data from that randomly, just to see around what you find.
So how could it be an example of this two things, qualitative survey and interview, like for example in psychology, like a more specific
example? For example, you do your questionnaire, and you will send it to psychologists or centers of development that treat autism, or people that specializes in managing people with autism. So like, I'm doing an exploration and I want to figure out what tools are available, what things are not available in Ecuador for patients or for children, or I want to apply this to parents that have children with autism, or I want to apply this to people that actually have autism or Asperger's or things like that, right? To see what they're struggling with. But then if you want to apply to patients, you have to be careful because they're protected individuals that are actual vulnerable populations, and you need a permit for that from the Ministry of Health. So this upcoming week, you guys are going to cover the module 2, which instructs you about all the IRB institutional review board processes that are in place in every single country in the world. That's another big step that you guys have to get trained. So I don't want you to run anything yet to anybody. I just want you to be informed of the process. So for example, the survey here is just for start organizing and thinking. If I want to do a specific project for thinking about my master's or my PhD, I should be thinking about patients, or should I be thinking in this process about doctors or the people that treats these people? Or in the industry, should I be thinking about the owners of companies or engineers or other physicians or other communicators or other teachers? So consider one thing. People that are in jails, patients of any illness, people with disabilities, cognitive or physical, and people that has been victims of discrimination or are under protected status, such as refugees, undocumented members of in any country are considered people with vulnerabilities. You cannot touch that people, even ask them anything without a permit from the Ministry of Health or a permit from an IRB of a university. The University of Cuenca has one IRB, it's called COBIAS. And there's another one in San Francisco de Quito called IRB San Francisco de Quito. So it's not an impossible process to get, but you need to get some information that we will cover up this week. And in international settings, you have to get a training that's called the CT training that you can get individually for yourself. And it's like a certificate, and every time you have to get it updated in order to get, to be able to do interviews for anything or work with vulnerable populations. Okay, any other questions? Is it clear, Vane?
And yeah, it was a little bit clear. From what I understand now, it's like qualitative survey. It's just like for start organizing and thinking. That's all. And the interview is like deeper. For saying in some.
Exactly. And that's already a data collection method.
So in the video, the man said that qualitative survey was like a method of collecting information, but there's like a different perspective or something like that about that.
Yeah, exactly. The one allows you a deeper exploration, but it's individual. When you do an interview, it's an individual setting. So you interview one-on-one people. It's actually for like sensitive information. It cannot happen in a group. It's just one-on-one. You meet individually with people. The qualitative survey, you can send it through email. You can do it over the phone. You can do it on Zoom. Or an interview, you can do it on Zoom and record it in audio. But you most likely in these days, you send a survey through the phone, and people like just do it on the phone or on a computer or things like that. But the interview usually is recorded in video and audio and lasts from usually 20 minutes to an hour. If it's a child, it can be more than 20 minutes.
Thank you.
Any other question? Okay, so covering up a little bit more into what we look into this week, we saw the nature of survey research and this nature of the surveys itself. You guys have now to look into develop a qualitative survey draft. Let me see that assignment. So you will have to submit that until October 19. And based on the video that you saw, you will have to do just a draft. You can do on a document, you can do it on a Google Forms, on a Microsoft Forms, on any platform you like. Consider at least doing 10 questions, not too much. It could mix open questions, closed questions, not more than that. It's not more recommendable than do it. The 10 exploratory is just an exploration about the topic that you care about. And it could mix, as Vanna, you were asking, it can mix several questions. So the key here, as you saw in the video, is going from general to particular questions, but merely exploratory. So it could be, have you ever heard about these types of autism, right? Yes or no, or you just mark all the options that you have heard. What are your perceptions about autism? And you can put like an open question to see the perceptions openly and see if those actually match what autism means, because you don't know if there's misunderstandings about autism. So that's what you want to know, right? If you close the question to yes or no, or true or false, or you give the option to people to match the right question with the option like a test, you will be driving people to the right question. And what you want to know actually is if they understand well what autism means or not, right? So when you actually want to know what a person knows, you have to ask them an open question. It's like if I ask you, Vane, what's your favorite food? You will tell me, oh, and you start thinking, right? And you probably ask me back, oh, salty or sweet, right? And I'll say like, I don't know, both. And you will say, oh, if it's salty, I don't know, I like encebollado. If it's sweet, I like brownies. But if it's typical, I like this. But if it's cold, I like that. So I will get a whole feeling about your personality through that. But if I tell you, Vane, is it true that your favorite food are tacos? I'm driving you into the question. Oh yeah, I like tacos too. Oh, Vanessa's favorite food is tacos, but it's actually not true. You like a range of food. Do you see the difference? So I want to know all the spectrum of what actually means for you. But a good open question is a general in a framework, right? So you will ask, what autism means to you? What do you understand autism in children means? And you can put like a little example. It means children have difficulties such as Explain along these lines something like this. And you can place it like that. Explain difficulties usually children have, explain common symptoms, how you realized, something like that, right? But don't give them the whole framework of what it means. So it could be driving into the response, but don't close too much. That would be my suggestion. Avoid questions of yes or no, but multiple options, like at least 5 or rank 1 to 5, are completely valid in exploration question, in exploratory surveys. Likert scales, all of that is valid. Okay, great. So let me share my screen with you. We're gonna go through what's coming up for this upcoming week. So we're right here, right? You guys will follow what is developing a survey draft until October 19. And then you guys are gonna follow next week the nature of survey research, steps into setting up a survey technique, and you have a lecture too. And then you guys are gonna see all of the rest of the materials until the Tuskegee case. And then you guys are gonna have an example over there. So the next meeting we are gonna have is gonna be on October 25. Let me see. Oh shoot, October 25, I cannot make it. And November 1st. Can you guys meet on October 26th? Or October 25, I have that meeting all day. Or would you be open to meet October 18 instead of 25? Or November 8 and I give you more time? What would work best?
Maybe you should ask in the WhatsApp group, make a poll there, because
Okay.
we're only 7 here. Yeah.
Okay, great. So I'm gonna make a poll about that. Okay, it's gonna be 25. Okay, sounds good. Already. Okay, great. So thank you very much. Please don't forget, I'm gonna put the dates in the upcoming assignments on here and upload this video to our classroom. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful weekend. And if you have any questions, just feel free to send me a message. Have a good one, and I'll grade you everything soon. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.